Question for the room. Has anyone seen a live-action television series that was worth extending past the first season? I have.
Yeah.
Wait.
A live action.
Yes. Has anyone ever seen a live-action TV series that was worth extending past the first season?
Yes.
I have.
About 100?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not.
Yeah, like that.
That I
That
could probably
deserve.
just name off the top of my head?
Yeah.
Like I can.
Firefly.
Well, I mean, like everyone is going to be like, Firefly should have had a second season, and okay, yeah.
Is the question that it didn't have a second season and it should have?
Has anyone seen a live-action TV series that was worth extending past the first season?
This is obviously an animu that thinks all live action television is garbage.
I guess. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to pass judgment on someone who wrote a
I
thing.
will pass judgment.
That's fine. You're allowed. We don't do that.
There's been, like, you don't even have to do comedy. Like, you could do drama, sci-fi, any genre. There's
Yeah.
MASH deserved a second season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's hundreds and hundreds of shows. Like,
The one off the top of my head immediately.
Next Generation deserved a second season?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the one that immediately twigged with me was Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
It-
so good.
Like that, I'm like, was it worth extending that to a second season? I'm like, it was worth extending it to a sixth season. It's been consistently excellent. I feel the writing is very tight. A lot of people say like 30 Rock, another show that really deserved that. There's like, I think there are an awful lot of shows.
Even Lost, which completely was a disaster at the end,
Yeah.
based on its first season, sure as heck deserved a second season.
Yeah.
It was extremely well put together television, despite the fact that they didn't know what they were doing. We didn't know that.
Yeah, they certainly made us all feel like it's, you know.
Bug splat.
Hey, Bugsplat, nice.
Hey.
Breaking Bad.
Definitely deserved to be extended past its first season.
Yeah.
Like, Star Trek Next Generation is one of those things that when I watch it, I'm like, I know how much better later seasons were. And so trying to watch it in context of what was the first season like is hard. But I would argue that when you watch the first season, I think it's easy to come away with the feeling that's like, I think there's something here. I think there's a nugget here of something interesting. But that's hard because it's like, I knew who these characters became.
Yeah.
Right? So it's hard to justify that.
I actually have a Next Generation pin right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Does it say something on it? Or
Yeah, it's there's a podcast called The Greatest Generation, and they put out pins that say Dustbuster Club
Oh,
because
The Mark
The
II
large
phaser.
show, yeah.
cute. But yeah, that's okay. So I think everyone kind of feels the same way. There has been at least one live-action TV series in existence that was worth extending past its first season.
Yeah, I can think of one right now that definitely did not need a second season. The Terror.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Terror season 1 was a self-contained story that was amazing. It's so good. And the Terror season 2 sucks out loud. Just, it sucks sour ass. It's so bad.
Wow, that's
Oh no.
Especially considering it decides to tackle like some very difficult subject matter. Oh.
I just marathoned the show Succession, which first and second season have been released, and it's very clever.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So you do the episodes right one after another?
Yeah.
In rapid succession?
Yep.
Yeah.
It for Game of Thrones people out there, it's very much if the Lannisters were in 2019 and decided to follow a similar track as the Murdochs. It's very good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, like, looking back on it, I don't know if it holds up or if it was necessarily really good. But I've always had a soft spot for Home Improvement, just because it was something that my folks and my family would watch all the time as a kid.
Nice.
Get into the sea, Sean.
I would have to agree with Sean there.
I just really enjoy that Johnny's being so judgmental and harsh about TV opinions while wearing this lovely iridescent floral hat. It's a strong image.
That's his critic's hat.
Also,
It's dazzle camouflage.
I think the early seasons of Full House were also pretty good.
I know it's overstated, but we are like, it is definitely a golden age of television right now. It's
Yeah.
not a golden age of animation. It's not a golden age, although you could argue different aspects of that. But like, it is a golden age of television. More interesting things are being done on television than feature films right now, and not all of those shows deserve second seasons,
Yeah.
but a lot of them do.
It feels like a lot of people are also trying to, because the problems with like the lack of diversity have been pointed out, that it feels like people are trying to push that more to be like, let's go to non-white people and ask them to make stuff and see how it resonates with general audiences, and go to not men and ask them to make stuff, to be like, hey, let's ask a whole bunch of different people for a bunch of different ideas, as opposed to let's ask the same type of people for a bunch of different ideas and they can't get there.
Yeah.
So I think that helps a bit too.
I think streaming has actually done great things for television too. There's so many more platforms. It seems to be the barrier to entry is a lot lower than with trying to get your show on a traditional cable network.
It's okay. So you tweaked something in me because I
Oh,
took
boy.
I took a course in university called Television, Radio, and New Media, and I did very good in it actually, because I really enjoyed it. But it definitely put me in mind of a lot of things that people don't normally think about when it comes to the distribution of shows and stuff, and that anybody who's producing something or publishing something, they're making like 90% of the money on what's being generated generally, especially in like motion pictures. But when I took that in university, it was 2002, 2003. Streaming was not really a thing. Like Netflix was still mailing people DVDs, right? They hadn't even thought about doing their streaming push. But my prof was still talking about that idea of the style of distribution that is like what you don't expect, and we kept expecting the 500 channel Death Star satellite. That got talked about in the 90s, like in the 80s. It was like, we're gonna put up this amazing satellite, and it's gonna have 500 channels on it. You'll be able to watch anything you want at any time you want, because it'll always be playing everything, and you'll just be able to watch it. And that whole thing was, this is going to have a great big effect on cable and on other satellite services when that happens. But also, we don't know what the knock-on effects are going to be, right? And what I realized like years later was that this whole aspect, like when Netflix was actually starting its streaming thing, and it's like, well, we're going to start just going to companies and say, sell us your back catalog, or license your back catalog to us, so we can just show anything we want at any time. And then all these networks are like, well, yeah, why not? It's an extra way to make money. It's this online thing. Who's going to use that? It's got no traction. No one's going to do this.
Right.
And everyone started cutting their cables. And like, I don't need to have cable if I can just watch whatever I want on Netflix whenever I want to watch it. And then Hulu was like another thing. And there was like a few other services started to come out, and they all started to like compete together. And seeing that, I'm like, I get what he was saying, where he was saying like the Death Star satellite thing, where everything's going to be on, that's going to have a big effect, but we don't have an idea of what it's going to do to cable companies and to the distribution arm, because distribution was making most of that money. But now you look at it and it's like, right, everybody's making their own streaming service.
Yeah.
The cable's falling apart. Nobody knows how to actually deal with that. The companies that are producing everything are saying, we want that money back. We want that in-house. And now everyone's going to, if you want to watch everything, it's going to cost you all of these services every month.
It's also interesting to think of how small-minded it now seems that the solution for wanting to watch television at any time you want was just to have more channels, so you could flick around and hopefully find the thing you want on a different channel.
Yeah.
Like the idea of untethering television to time in the way that it had always been done. It is so obvious to us now, but was even to people who taught at a higher level of education had no real way to wrap their mind around the idea of completely untethering our watching from time. And it was brought to clear understanding for me today, like yesterday. The people that I'm staying with, their 2 little boys, have never experienced television tethered to time.
Yeah.
They have never ever thought of television as something that wasn't always on and always just what they wanted, start when they want, end when they want. And so I set up Twitch on their Apple TV for them, and their mom let them watch a little bit of the stream yesterday morning. And they couldn't understand the idea that I hadn't recorded that at a different time. Like they couldn't, the concept of me being somewhere else and them seeing me from a different location on television that was happening at the exact same time didn't make sense to them. They went to the basement where I'm sleeping normally to check to see if I was there because they couldn't understand what was going on. and as I was talking to them at dinner, he was like, well, can I go watch a bit more of you on television? I was like, no, because I'm not there. And then he just couldn't parse that. Sure, he's 7.
Yeah.
But the idea of time tethering of what he watched is such an alien concept, and it's such a flip of how we grew up and how we are the entire history of television has been. And it's going to fundamentally change the way we think about entertainment in a lot of different ways, in ways that we can't even contemplate now.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah, live TV is become this really unusual thing for a lot of really young people.
Yeah.
I guess
The
you
era
would,
of must-see TV is long gone.
like, what would you go to live TV for? Sports?
Sports.
You wouldn't need it for news.
No, although you might want it for like election night coverage.
Your mic's not
Yeah.
live in the room.
But like social media is better for that anyway.
You're meant.
I just realized my microphone was off. Sorry.
Okay.
I was like, I could hear myself, but I think I was coming through Sean's microphone.
Okay.
The election coverage is going to be something that social media is going to do better. Sports, obviously, the action, the physical action of it is more interesting to you than just the statistical information. Well, for most people, but for most people, they don't actually care if they see a pundit sitting around looking at a graph. They just want to know the information, right? So,
Yeah.
So I think you might be right. Like sports might be the only thing.
You can watch sports VODs now, though, and like, oh, I missed it by 2 hours. I'll just watch it as soon as I get home from work instead.
Yeah, there is that aspect that it's like sport. I mean, a sporting event or live breaking news coverage in another, like somewhere else that's like not near you, where you hear about a thing on Twitter, and then you're like, I need to see what's happening, so you pull up a live stream of something that's happening. Like I watched the Al Jazeera stream of the earthquake. 2011 earthquake.
Oh, yeah, the
in Japan.
Yeah.
The one that really just nailed Fukushima. And the fact that we could watch like live footage of what was happening from any other kind of like wherever they had their cameras set up, and they were getting as much as they could. And then at some point it's like, and now we're just going to replay more of that because we don't have enough footage in different places because it's dangerous here. But that whole thing of now you can just watch something that you want immediately, instead of feeling like I have to tune in to see the breaking news about this thing is happening. And it's like, and I get to watch that for the length of time that someone decided to show it to me. And then I can't watch any more of that, right?
Think about how the whole idea of spoiling television couldn't exist in a world where we couldn't watch it whenever we wanted. Because if everyone had to watch the shows at the exact same time, how do you spoil a television show for someone? And I think that sports fans are the original, like with VHS or however, PVR or however you were recording, was the original kind of, I find that sports fans are probably the people that are most, in my recent memory, they're most annoyed by being spoiled on sports scores. You know, like I haven't watched that game yet, don't spoil it for me. But like that is a relatively new phenomenon. In television, movies, you know, that's playing all week or for a couple of months, and your friends could have seen it before you did. But with television, it was always, well, you watched it or you didn't. And if you didn't watch it, that's too bad. You might never see it again. I guess you might see it in syndication in 5 years.
Yeah. I thought that was great though, like on the advent of Netflix to be like, now I really did ask myself, why am I buying DVDs? You know, everything will just end up on Netflix. And of course now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Right,
And
or it does for a little while and then goes away.
yeah.
Because licensing.
and you start to realize you're like, wait, I'm at the mercy. It's like Disney putting stuff in the vault. I'm at the mercy of someone making a decision that will impact me in this way, and I hate that. You know, it's like if I'm going to time shift, I feel like the only way to properly time shift is like I have to have a copy of that so I can watch that and enjoy that whenever I want. But
Well,
then
yeah,
that
and like
becomes, you know, that becomes acquiring stuff.
Then you get into the idea that like you don't necessarily own the things that you feel that you own.
Yeah.
Right? When people's books on their Kindles get edited,
Yeah. Right?
right? Or re-edited.
And I hate that a lot of people be like, oh, suck it up, Grandpa. It's just the way of the world now, you know? 23 Skidoo. And I'm like, that's crap, I think.
It's like, yeah, but some things are real.
Yeah. And
Right,
having
and-
a thing that is real is important. And having something that is real. Like, imagine you were reading a book and you read this beautiful passage, something you really liked, or something that twigged you a certain way, because maybe of a typo or something, but it just made you feel a certain way, and you bookmarked it, and you came back to it like a year later to look at it, and that was gone, and you feel like you were gaslit.
Yeah.
That wasn't
right?
the
Like,
way that was.
Yeah, it's like these little Stalinist.
It's like, no, they carved that picture of that guy was never in that picture with Stalin, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, with our new technology age, the concept of ownership has to change, and we aren't doing a great job of who we let define.
No,
what the
Yeah.
new
because
thing is.
it's the people who produce the thing that say that we own the thing first, and we're going to license it to you. And do you want it? Yeah, I want it. Well, then you're buying a license to it. But I don't want to buy a license. I want to own it. That's why I still buy a lot of my video games physically if I can do it, just for that sense of I don't want someone to decide that this has to be pulled off the store and then pulled off my device. If I want this bad enough and I want to own it, I'll buy a physical copy of it. You cannot say I can't have this thing unless you put something on my device that plays it back that says you cannot play this game now. We are hard locking that software being from played on your device, and then that's going to be like crazy. But yeah,